My name is Markus, and my life used to be simple. School, friends, and Kelly, especially Kelly. She was the sun in my otherwise cloudy sky. Then Arkus came. He wasn't a god or a monster from some ancient myth. He was something worse, something new. He led a race of beings called the Arka, creatures that fed on human life force, turning their victims into hollow shells of their former selves. They were fast, strong, and utterly merciless. And Arkus, their leader, had his eyes set on my world. He took many things from many people, but from me, he took everything. He took Kelly. It wasn't a simple kidnapping, oh no, that would have been too easy. Arkus did something far more cruel. He didn't just take her, he twisted her, changed her. He forced his dark energy into her, transforming her into one of his own kind, an Arka. The girl I loved, with her bright laugh and kind eyes, was gone. In her place was a creature with pale skin and glowing red eyes, bound to Arkus's will. But I knew, deep down, a part of her was still in there, fighting. I had to believe it. It was the only thing that kept me going, the only reason I hadn't crumbled into dust myself. So I started hunting. Not for revenge, not really. This was a rescue mission. I spent months tracking Arkus and his horde, learning their ways, their weaknesses. I also discovered something about myself. The same energy Arkus used to create his army, I could somehow control it. Not to create, but to fight. I could channel pure energy into blasts of power, create shields that shimmered like heat haze, and move faster than a normal human could track. These powers came at a cost, draining my life with every use. But it didn't matter. I would burn myself out to the last ember if it meant I could bring Kelly back. My search led me to the abandoned industrial district on the edge of the city, a place of rust and decay. The air here felt heavy, thick with a malevolent energy that made my teeth ache. An informant, a scared kid who'd seen the Arka dragging people into the old steel mill, had given me the location for a steep price. He told me it was a suicide mission. He was probably right. But as I stood before the giant, dilapidated structure, I knew my hunt was over. Kelly was in there. I could feel her presence, a faint, flickering light in an overwhelming sea of darkness. I was coming for her, no matter what. Pushing open the massive, groaning metal doors of the steel mill was like stepping into another world. The inside was a cavern of shadows and steel, a labyrinth of rusted catwalks and silent machinery. The air was cold, carrying the scent of ozone and something else, something sickly sweet. And they were waiting for me, hundreds of them. The Arka stood motionless in the vast space, their glowing red eyes turning to me in perfect unison. They looked like a twisted reflection of a human crowd, their faces pale and emotionless, but their presence screamed with silent hunger. They were an army, and I had just walked into their barracks. In the center of the horde, standing on a raised platform, was Kelly. My Kelly. She looked just as I remembered, yet completely different. Her face was a mask of cold indifference, her eyes holding that same terrifying red glow as the others. She wore a simple dark dress, and she stood perfectly still, a puppet waiting for its master to pull the strings. Seeing her like this, a part of this monstrous army, sent a spear of ice through my heart. But it didn't break me, it only fueled the fire inside. I had to free her from this nightmare, I had to. Then he emerged from the shadows behind her. Arkus. He was tall and unnervingly graceful, moving with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. A dark aura, a visible distortion in the air, pulsed around him like a black flame. It was suffocating, a physical pressure that made the very air feel thick and hard to breathe. He wasn't just their leader, he was their source, the black heart of their entire race. His eyes, a deeper and more intense crimson than the others, locked onto mine. A slow, cruel smile spread across his face, as if he had been expecting me all along. The Arka surrounding me began to stir, their bodies tensing, their hands curling into claws. A low, collective hiss filled the cavernous space, the sound of 1,000 snakes ready to strike. They were a wall of bodies between me and Kelly, a living, breathing obstacle course of death. My own power surged in response, energy crackling over my skin. My hands began to glow with a faint blue light. This was it, the final stand. I was outnumbered, outmatched, and walking into the enemy's stronghold. But I didn't care. I would tear through every single one of them if I had to. For Kelly. So the little hero arrives! Arkus's voice echoed, smooth as silk but laced with poison. Come to reclaim what is mine. He gestured casually to Kelly, who remained unnervingly still. My response wasn't words. I lunged forward, a bolt of blue energy erupting from my palm, aimed straight for his chest. The Arka horde moved to intercept, but the blast was too fast, too powerful. It slammed into an invisible barrier just in front of Arkus, exploding with the force of a grenade. The shockwave threw the closest Arka off their feet, but Arkus himself hadn't moved an inch, his dark aura shimmering. The fight began in earnest. I was a whirlwind of motion and light, a blur against the sea of pale faces and red eyes. I dodged and weaved, blasting Arka aside with focused energy pulses and creating shimmering shields to block their clawed strikes. They were relentless, attacking from all sides, trying to overwhelm me with sheer numbers. But my focus was singular. Arkus. Every move I made, every ounce of energy I spent clearing a path was to get closer to him. He watched the chaos with an amused detachment, as if enjoying a particularly entertaining show put on just for him. Finally, I broke through the last line of his guards and reached the platform. Arkus met my charge without a hint of concern. I threw a punch, my fist glowing with power. He caught it effortlessly, his grip like steel, his aura flared, and a wave of pure darkness slammed into me, throwing me back several feet. It felt like being hit by a truck. The air was knocked from my lungs and my vision swam. The power he commanded was immense, ancient and oppressive. It wasn't just raw force, it was a corrupting energy that tried to seep into my very soul, whispering promises of despair. We exchanged blows, a frantic dance of light and shadow. My energy blasts met his waves of darkness in spectacular, deafening collisions that shook the entire mill. I managed to land a solid hit, a concentrated beam that seared across his shoulder, making him roar in pain and anger. But he gave as good as he got. A whip of dark energy caught me across the chest, leaving a burning gash. Another strike caught my leg, and I stumbled, my strength beginning to fade. Each use of my power was a drain, a piece of my life force burning away. I was running on fumes, and Arkus, he seemed to have an endless supply. I was on my knees, breathing heavily, my body screaming in protest. Every muscle ached, and the gash on my chest burned with the cold fire. Arkus stood over me, his dark aura pulsing with victory. "It's over, boy," he sneered. "She belongs to me. You have lost." He raised his hand, gathering dark energy for the final killing blow. I looked past him, at Kelly. For a split second, I thought I saw a flicker of something in her red eyes. A tear, a memory, a ghost of the girl I knew. That was all I needed. Hope. It was a foolish, desperate gamble, but it was my only move left. With the last of my strength, I didn't form a shield or a blast. I gathered every remaining spark of my life force, all the energy I had left, and poured it into a single, concentrated point in my hand. It wasn't an attack meant for Arkus. He laughed, thinking I was making a final, futile gesture. "A pathetic little light," he mocked, bringing his hand down. But I wasn't aiming at him. I unleashed the energy in a brilliant, pure white wave, not of destruction, but of life. It shot past Arkus and washed over Kelly. It was everything I was, my love, my memories, my very essence, all focused on her. The effect was instantaneous. Kelly screamed, a human sound of agony and release, as the white light forced the darkness out of her. Arkus turned in shock, his distraction giving me the opening I needed. I surged upward, plunging my hand, still crackling with residual energy, straight into his chest. His eyes widened in disbelief as my power overloaded his dark core. He exploded in a shower of black and red light, his aura collapsing in on itself. But his final dying act was to lash out, a shard of his dark energy impaling me through the side. We both fell. Kelly was human again. The red faded from her eyes, replaced by their familiar, beautiful brown. She rushed to my side, cradling my head in her lap as my lifeblood stained the cold steel floor. "Markus, no, no," she cried, tears streaming down her face. I managed a weak smile. "I told you, I'd come for you," I whispered, my vision blurring. The wound from Arkus wasn't healing. It was draining what little I had left. She held me tight, her sorrow a tangible thing. "I'm here, Markus. I'm here." My world faded to black, her voice the last thing I heard. My mission was complete, and as my heart gave its final beat, hers, broken by a grief too great to bear, quietly followed. We left that dark place together, loyal to the very end.